Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today, before starting discussion, I would like to talk about anatomy of soft palate and pharynx. The pharynx, that is the beginning of the esophagus, is divided into nasopharynx, oropharynx and laryngopharynx. And at the level of soft palate, the pharynx is divided into nasopharynx, the upper part above the level of the soft palate, and the oropharynx below the level of the soft palate. And the function of soft palate is to press against the posterior pharyngeal wall during swallowing and speech production, and thereby separating the oropharynx and nasopharynx. When the soft palate can do it sufficiently, that is, he can separate sufficiently the nasopharynx and oropharynx, then there is no regurgitation of food and no nasal intonation in voice. Now, let's have a look at this patient. This patient has a cleft palate which has not been repaired in the childhood, and now he comes with the complaints of nasal intonation in voice and difficulty in eating due to regurgitation of saliva and food into the nose through the nasopharynx. The hypernasality in speech and reflux of saliva and food during swallowing is called velopharyngeal insufficiency. So why it is called velopharyngeal? Because the soft palate is also called velum. So when the soft palate cannot separate the nasopharynx and oropharynx sufficiently during speech production and swallowing, it is called velopharyngeal insufficiency. Velopharyngeal insufficiency occurs in some clinical conditions. That number 1, it occurs in cleft palate, as you have already seen. Number 2, even after repair of cleft palate, 10 to 40% of children may still experience velopharyngeal insufficiency. So this is interesting. Why? Some patients, that is 10 to 40% of children, still experience velopharyngeal insufficiency even after surgical repair. This is because of 3 conditions. Number 1, scarring and shortening of the soft palate due to surgical repair. Number 2, inadequate movement of the levator muscle due to pre-existing neurological factor. And number 3, there may be fistula formation, and air and saliva food can still escape through this fistula into the nasopharynx. So the number 1 cause is cleft palate. Number 2, even after surgical repair of cleft palate, the velopharyngeal insufficiency may still persist. Number 3, submucous cleft palate. Number 4, velopharyngeal insufficiency can occur after adenoidectomy in some patients, and the incidence is 1 in 1000 and 1500 to 1 in 3000. And interestingly, some patients may experience velopharyngeal insufficiency even without any structural abnormality. The investigation of choice for velopharyngeal insufficiency is video nasoendoscopy, and video fluoroscopy can also be done as an alternative if video nasoendoscopy is not tolerated. Now come to the treatment of velopharyngeal insufficiency. There are both medical and surgical procedures. The medical treatment includes speech therapy. There are some medical appliances which can prevent the escape of air and food from oropharynx to nasopharynx. Surgical procedures aim at separating the nasopharynx and oropharynx during speech and swallowing. The procedures are: number 1, Farlow palatoplasty. It is preferred when the velopharyngeal gap is small. Number 2 is the sphincter pharyngoplasty. Number 3 is the pharyngeal flap procedure, and number 4 is the posterior pharyngeal wall augmentation. Farlow palatoplasty is associated with less morbidity than the pharyngoplasty procedure. These surgical procedures improve the speech outcome, that is, possibility of achieving normal resonance in 85% of cases. But pharyngoplasty procedure may be associated with post-operative sleep apnea. So this should be discussed with the patient and the relatives. So this is all from the velopharyngeal insufficiency. Hope you have enjoyed it. Goodbye.